This is a story, I believe, that was put out yesterday on Christopher Nkunku, and his future with Chelsea, which remains very much in the air. Now there's been talk that he could be involved in a swap deal for Xavi Simons. Park that because, we're going to talk about Xavi Simons in a moment as well. But I saw these reports and I'm always extremely skeptical, Stefan, whenever I hear any kind of stories about swap deals and players going one way and another player going that way. It happens that a transfer of one player leads to a transfer of another player going the other way. Swap deals have happened as well. They're extremely popular in Italy, for example, right? But they very rarely seem to happen in the Bundesliga. In fact, they seem to be happen very rarely, period. Now, does a potential transfer of Xavi Simons, again, I'm going to talk about that in a moment. It's a separate story. And I think it's really important to put a lot of context on that as well. Open the door for Nkunku to come back to Leipzig. I received some pushback on that. I was told that his significant salary would need to be covered by Chelsea. I was also told that there has been an increasing amount of injury concerns, which has held back a lot of clubs. There was some links to Bayern Munich in January. There's been links again to Bayern Munich, and we have a lot of Bayern Munich listeners and people in our chats asking why are Bayern not going in for Christopher Nkunku. I tell you why, because there is very big concerns whether he can have a prolonged career in professional football to begin with, right? So for Leipzig to take on this deal and take on his contract and to take on the player, period, I think that would come with a lot of security mechanisms. We would talk alone. We would talk with Chelsea taking over a significant amount of the salary. And I think it would also come with him passing a prolonged medical, right? A lot of hoops to jump through, which means I wasn't told no, absolutely not. But I was also told, yeah, but this and that and maybe this and also consider that, which are the things that I'd outlined. And so, Stefan, I think that also really explains why maybe not so many clubs have come in for Nkunku in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think obviously on his day, Nkunku is an outstanding player. I think he proved that in the Bundesliga. I think, a fully fit Nkunku who's, interested and wants to be part of that team would be a kind of game changer for Leipzig. And on paper is the perfect replacement for Xavi Simons. He can obviously play it wide on the left as Simons tends to do, but he can happily play through the middle, as we know as well. Can he potentially kind of chip in and help in for Sesko's departure? But he has had injuries time and time again at Chelsea. They do seem to be, there's nothing really particularly consistent about them. There's no kind of running theme, but it's just kind of constant niggles and injuries, as if to suggest, his body's just struggling with the physicality of just, the demands of modern football, really. So I think that's fair enough. And, when you kind of throw the wages into that, it's worth bearing in mind. I should say, by the way, I should do a quick kind of apology or correction, because when we talked about this last week and we talked about Sesko, I completely got those salary figures wrong. I think I said he'd be making about 600,000 at Man United. I completely misspoke. It was actually closer to, I think it's closer to about 300,000 euros he's making a week. Still way more than I think Arsenal could offer. So the point still stands, but I just wanted to point that out anyway. But yeah, interestingly enough, Manu, Leipzig have spent the summer trying to get a player off their wages who makes about 10 million euros a year in Timo Werner. And he's a player who they picked up from Chelsea, who wasn't quite working out there. And they said, well, maybe we'll bring him back for old time's sake. Maybe he'll be able to kind of recreate what he did in the Bundesliga once upon a time. Maybe he's still that same player. And sure enough, he returns and he's done very little and almost quite... It's kind of almost got into this kind of bitter situation, actually, it would seem, in the sense that, Leipzig are doing their best to move him on. And I think, unfortunately for Nkunku, or perhaps unfortunately for Chelsea, because I don't think it's maybe Nkunku pushing this through, he proves to be maybe a bit of a cautionary tale that Leipzig can't overlook. So, yeah, I think, like I said, Nkunku on paper, it'd be great to see him back in the Bundesliga, but if those injury concerns are genuine and the wage demands are genuine, then I just can't really see a situation in which Leipzig will be kind of bending over backwards to help Chelsea here.
No, I mean, like, just look at the injury list, right? I have it up on Transfermarkt at the moment, and he misses the World Cup in 2022, right? He gets hurt, I think, in the training camp for France, torn lateral knee ligament injury, misses 12 games for Leipzig, misses the World Cup. Kolomouani gets called up instead. Then he misses another 8 games in 2023. In 2023, with a torn muscle fiber. Then he arrives in at Chelsea, August 3rd, knee injury again, another 20 games missed. Then he misses another 9 games for fitness issue. Then a hip injury makes him miss another 5 games in January 2024. And then in February 2024, he misses another 14 games with a hamstring injury. And then from April 2025 to May 2025, he misses another 6 games, with which Chelsea described a knock, whatever that is. So yeah, that's a lot of games missed since that initial lateral injury, that they torn lateral knee injury that he sustained when playing for France. And yeah, I think that is really, where the risk comes in. Interesting, you mentioned Timo Werner. It's 11 million euros. I know there's a deadline set by the New York Red Bulls on when he has to make his decision to join, and if he doesn't want to join. I think it was August 20th. Not 100% right. I think Tom Bogart put that out there with Soccer Wise. So he reported that somewhere. But if he doesn't accept the New York Red Bulls offer by then, they will walk away from it. And it's really kind of crazy, like, that his market has gone completely dead. And Leipzig would obviously love to have his salary of their wages and park them in New York from one Red Bull organization to another, I guess, would be what's going on here. But you're right. I mean, like, that's a cautionary tale, isn't it? The return didn't work out at all in that case.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I did kind of think when the story came out, I was very suspicious of it. We've seen quite a lot of this surrounding Chelsea and the reports around them that everything's kind of rosy. They're getting on fine with their transfer business. And is it incredible that this kind of Hail Mary galaxy brained policy seems to be working out just fine? Wow, they're making so much money from all these deals. And when you kind of peel away at that kind of hubris and that kind of over the top exuberance and look at the facts on the ground, it's anything but. We know with the Chukwuemeka deal to Dortmund, Nkunku, they're obviously desperately pushing Nicholas Jackson to anyone who'll buy him. And as I said on social media, they've spent this summer flogging so many of their players to anyone who will potentially want them. And unfortunately for poor Christopher Nkunku, I think he's probably part of that grouping. And yeah, like I said, I think reports in England are maybe a little too enthusiastic to suggest that, yeah, Leipzig will swoop in, they'll take Nkunku off Chelsea's hands, which means Chelsea can sign Xavi Simons and there's nothing to worry about. And, it's almost like they're almost reading from the hymn sheet from the club itself. But I could possibly say, Manu.